In this lesson, we'll look at how Mudbox integrates with other applications within our pipeline. So the first application we'll look at is Photoshop. So there are a couple of ways that we can integrate with Photoshop. Let's say that we want to do some editing on a particular paint layer in Photoshop. Now we could export this out as a texture, load it into Photoshop, do our painting, and then reload it back into Mudbox, but there's an easier way. We can right click on our paint layer, go to Export Channel to PSD, and we can go ahead and save this out. We'll call this T-Rex Color. Save it into our project files here. Okay, now it's going to automatically open up Photoshop and load that file in. I didn't load up load up anything. I didn't start anything. It automatically loaded that up. And so now we have the texture file. We also have the UVs on top of it. You can see we've got 3 layers here, basically the diffuse color on the background, then the texture, and then the UVs on top. So we can do our editing, whatever kind of editing we want to do on this particular texture. If we want to just go ahead and maybe do some adjustment on it, we can kind of do this in Mudbox, but just as an example, let's say we wanted to just adjust something in here, maybe take the saturation down. Okay, we can do that. Now, before I save this, I want to go back to Mudbox. You can see we have this window up, and it says that it's watching this file. So it's watching the file to see if there are any changes that have been saved. Right now, there aren't any changes, so we don't have the ability to re-import that. So let's take a look at how this window changes once we go back into Photoshop and save our changes. So we'll simply go to File, choose Save, and now if we jump back to Mudbox, you can see now it knows that it's changed since we exported it, and it's asking us if we want to re-import. So we'll say yes, we want to re-import those changes. And so now the image with the new changes that we've created is re-imported into this paint layer. So you can see how very quickly that happened. We can go back and forth with our paint layers to Photoshop. If we want to make any other changes, we can do that and then re-import those very quickly. So it makes for a very quick transition. It eliminates a lot of that work that we would normally have to do in exporting textures and editing those and bringing them back in. All right, there's another way that we can use Photoshop here. Let's say we want to paint on this model. We want to paint it in Photoshop, but we don't want to paint on the texture. We actually want to have the view of the model. So we can go ahead and export the screen to PSD. So we can choose just use the screen size. We'll export to PSD. Choose a file name. Same thing's going to happen. It's going to load that up into Photoshop. This time it's actually a view of the model. Okay, and you can see we have several layers here. This is the layer that we want to paint on. And we also have the original texture, the background, so forth. We'll concentrate here. So I think that this guy really needs a tattoo, let's say. And so let's go ahead and let's give him a nice butterfly on the shoulder. I think he'll appreciate that. So we've got our shape. We'll go ahead and I'm just going to turn off the visibility on all of these. And let's actually just merge visible. And I'm going to select this. So we keep the name the same. So now he has a nice butterfly on his shoulder. So let's go ahead and save this. And we'll go back to Mudbox. And we get the same window. It's watching that file. It's changed, so it gives us that indication. And so we'll re-import that. And so it's actually going to project that down onto our model from that camera view. Okay, so instead of painting on the actual texture map, we painted on the model, and it went in and added that detail that we wanted to add there. Okay, so beyond working with Photoshop, Mudbox works really well with Maya, 3ds Max, and Softimage. And so you can see the options that we have over here. I happen to have Maya 2012 on this machine, and so that is highlighted here. And so we have several options for sending our geometry over to Maya. So we can send selected as a new scene. So whatever we have selected, we can send as a new scene. We can update a scene, and this is talking about updating the scene in the other application. In this case, it's Maya. We can only update the textures in the current scene, again in Maya, or we can add selected to the current scene. So if we have another model in there, we can add something to that. Okay, and so let's go ahead and say send selected as new scene. Okay, now we haven't actually selected anything, or we have the actually the model, we don't have it at the base level, and so it's asking us in this case if we want to send it at the current level or the base mesh, and we'll send the base mesh instead. Okay, so we'll go ahead and let that think. Now this is giving us an indication. We'll say don't save. Okay, and if we maximize Maya here, we can see that it has sent the lowest level of this, and since we didn't have anything selected, it sent both of those objects, the body and also the teeth. Okay, and you can see that actually the texture has come along as well. Okay, we won't worry too much about the texture. So let's say that we want to modify the geometry somehow. So we want to, let's say, add an edge loop here for the area around the eye. Okay, so let's go ahead and we just extrude that in a little bit, just so we have something visible. We can see that it's changed. Okay, so once we have this done, we're going to have the same options here. If we go to send to Mudbox, we have the same options: send as new scene, update current scene, add to current scene. So we want to update our current scene. So in this case, here in Maya, we'll select update current scene with our new topology. Okay, as we go back into Mudbox, it's going to give us this option for transferring details because we're bringing in a mesh with new topology. So we'll go ahead and say import. So now it's going to import and project that new topology that we've created in Maya. And you can see it was just a couple of clicks to go back and forth between Mudbox and Maya. So now if we take this mesh and go down to level 1, level 0 actually, and take a look at it, you can see that the topology has actually changed. So you can see over here on this side, now it's flat. I'm going to turn this off. You can see this is the original topology, and then this is the topology that we created in Maya. So this is great for retopology operations. If there are areas that you need to clean up, areas that you need to fix, areas that you need to add or change, you can very quickly go into your 3D application from here, send it over, do some changes in your 3D application, and then send it right back. Okay, and then those changes are reflected here in our model. Okay, and you can see we still have all of our subdivision levels available here. Okay, all right, so that's a look at integrating Mudbox with some of our other applications, 3D and also 2D in Photoshop. And I think this brings us to the conclusion of our beginner's guide to Mudbox. So if you enjoyed this course and you want to learn more, make sure to check out all the additional courses that we have available at digitaltutors.com.